43 of the Inland Empire Workers' Compensation Lawyer live stream podcast. My name is Attorney Alexander Napolin. I'm joined by my co-host, Attorney George Abuado. We're injury lawyers in Southern California, and we put discussions together to help injured workers understand their legal rights. And on this episode, we're discussing injuries that happen while you're coming from your doctor's visit. So if you've been injured at work and you're going to a doctor that your employer sent you to, you might become injured in an automobile accident or some other way while you're going to that doctor's appointment or coming back from that doctor's appointment, or you might be injured while you're at the doctor's office, either by the facility or by a staff member or by the doctor themselves. So if you have questions about this, you need to listen to the short discussion that George and I have put together. But if you need legal advice, you need to dial the injury helpline and get a free and confidential case evaluation to determine your legal rights. You need to dial in the injury helpline, 844-984-8414, after you listen to this general information that we're giving you. So in the past, George and I have discussed the going and coming rule, which basically means that you don't get workers' compensation if you're injured going to or coming from work on a normal commute. There's a lot of exceptions to that. You need to check out our video on that. We're going to put a link to that in the description and put it right up here. But the rules are a little bit so when you're going to and coming from work, you don't get workers' compensation if you're injured on that commute. But what if you're going to and coming from your medical appointment? Is it different, George?
No, so yeah, definitely. It's different, Alex, and it's a different topic along the same lines, because people are going to say, well, if I'm coming and going from work and I'm coming and going from the doctor, isn't it the same thing? Unfortunately, it is not. Once again, as you described, when you're coming and going from the doctor, that is an activity that you are made to do because of your work injury. So let's start with your work injury. Your work injury could be one single injury, but in the future, it might cause other problems. And workers' compensation is great for injured workers in that it takes care of not only your work injury, but everything that comes about because of your work injury. So that is a concept that you need to understand in order to understand what we're going to talk about today. So prior to your work injury, going and coming rule, that's prior. But now that you've been injured, whatever is caused because of your injury could be and should be, especially if you have the right attorney working for you, included in your workers' compensation claim. So I'm going to give you an example that has nothing to do with doctors and coming and going from them. What if you hurt your knee at work? It's an accepted claim, but now you're taking a shower at home and your knee gives out, and you fall in the shower because your knee gave out, your work injury knee gave out, and you hurt your back and possibly your head. Alex, is that included in your claim now?
The insurance company is going to try to say no.
Right.
And that's one of the things you mentioned is you have a lawyer that's fighting for you.
Right.
But under the law, yes.
Right. And listen, you were at home taking a shower. That's as far away from work as you can get. But once again, because it was caused by your injury, so work caused your injury, and now your injury caused more injuries, it's included. So it's something that I really want you to understand, a very simple concept, but it's very powerful because that can help you out in the future with different things. Now, listen, what if you have surgery and the surgery causes other problems? Or you're recovering from your surgery, and once again, the knee, you have knee surgery, and because you can't use that knee, you're overusing your left knee or your hip or whatever the case might be. Those are now all covered. So it's a concept that we really want you to understand, something that could really, really help you out in your medical treatment and overall in your claim. So understanding that, Alex, let's move on to what we were talking about. You're going to the doctor's and you get injured on the way there. Maybe you get into an accident, or you get injured while walking into the doctor's clinic. Maybe you trip over a step, and we're talking about that. Is that covered?
Yes.
And is the mileage covered while you're going to the doctor?
Yes.
Is your time off of work covered while you're going to your PTP?
If you're on temporary disability and you're completely off of work, then you're getting temporary disability benefits.
Right.
But if you're on modified work, which we discussed in our last episode, whether or not your employer has to provide reasonable accommodation, it might it's not covered.
It's not covered
anymore.
Right. And if you're on TD, listen, you're getting paid your TD, but you're not getting extra money for going to the doctor. It's not going to be extra amount of money. Now you are getting your mileage. Remember that. Always turning your mileage. It's not millions of dollars worth, but it always helps, especially with the gas prices.
It
covers the gas.
Sure.
Yeah,
and wear and tear.
Yeah, and every one you turn in could be a couple $100. So it's definitely good to turn in. But once again, you are not covered if you have to take a time off of work and you're working modified duty. That time that you go to the doctors is not covered, so you're not getting paid for that.
This is a big question.
Huge.
I mean, people call my office asking this question
all the time.
What's the answer to this question?
Yeah.
So we wanted to put it in the video. We discussed this. Yeah. If you're on modified work and you're leaving work to go to a doctor for your workers' compensation claim, you don't get reimbursed on anything for that. You just miss the time. Or you got to take personal time.
All right.
But if you're completely off of work because your employer can't provide modified work and you're temporarily disabled, you go to all your doctor's appointments, you're getting reimbursed for that.
Mileage, and you're getting TD.
And you're getting temporary disability.
Right.
But if you're injured while you're going to or coming from the doctor, it sounds like the answer is yes, you get workers' compensation for that injury.
Of course.
Unlike the commute to work.
Right. So that's very important for you to know. Now, listen, this could include all kinds of appointments. It doesn't have to be a doctor's appointment. You might be on your way to get an MRI done, some diagnostic testing, doctor's appointment, physical therapy appointments. You might be even going to the grocery store or pharmacy to pick up a prescription, right?
Yes.
So all this stuff is included, and it's a universally understood rule and very respected that if you're in the process of doing something for your workers' compensation claim for the injury that you have incurred, and now you get more injured, definitely, the workers' compensation laws and system is going to help you out with that.
And the most common situation is an automobile collision. You're driving to the doctor's appointment and you're in an automobile accident. If you didn't cause the accident, you have a lawsuit against the person who did cause the accident, and you also have a workers' compensation claim.
Right.
If you caused the accident or no one caused the accident, it was just an accident, you have workers' compensation rights. And that's really broad for all the injuries that you sustain in that incident.
Yeah, and you know what? It's good you brought that up, Alex. Absent exceptions, and with that I mean you were driving drunk and things like that.
Yes.
But absent exceptions, even if it was your fault, you might get sued by the other driver, but you still have a workers' compensation claim and it's going to be covered, even if it was your fault. Once again, absent certain exceptions, like you were drinking and driving, or you were just being completely negligent, you were playing with your car, maybe you were racing, all that stuff notwithstanding, if you were just on your way to work, even if it was your fault, could still be covered.
Yeah, it's a
no fault system.
It's a case by case basis. That's why this is general information,
right?
And it's meant to educate you about the rules. But if you were driving drunk and there's other situations that might exclude you, you need to talk to a workers' compensation attorney. You need to dial the injury helpline. That's 844-984-8414 and get the legal advice that you need with a free and confidential case evaluation.
Now, we talked about coming and going from the doctors and certain, diagnostic testing and prescription getting. But what if, Alex, you are at the doctor's and maybe you require surgery, and during that surgery, the doctor makes a mistake, or unfortunately, it's just one of those things where it just goes downhill.
There's risks in surgery.
There's risks. There are always inherent risks. So what if now coming out of surgery, you're much worse off than you were before? Now that's obviously it's the same situation. But what if, because you're worse off from that body part, other body parts are injured, or you are taking damage to other parts of the body, or maybe even your internal system, or maybe psych? Is that included in the claim? Is that the same as going and coming rule?
Well, again, the insurance company is going to say no.
Right.
But your lawyer, if you have one, and if you don't have one, you're going to need one, is going to say yes. George, you brought up a good point. Medications that are taken because of an injury could damage your internal systems.
Right.
If you're out there and you're taking a lot of Advil, you're taking a lot of Tylenol because you're in pain all the time, you could be damaging your kidneys, your liver, and other systems in your body. And you need to understand that those could have potential benefits that you're not, if you're that person, you need to dial the injury helpline 844-984-8414 and talk to us if you feel you're getting internal damage.
Yeah, and it's not only that, Alex. It's stuff that people don't even think about. What if I'm going to go with the knee example again. What if you hurt your knee or both knees in a fall, and now you used to be very active, used to love to hike and do sports, and now you're just at home resting because you're temporarily disabled, and you gain a bunch of weight. Is that covered?
Yes.
100%. That should be covered. Now, when I say 100%, maybe I misspoke. Nothing is absolute in this world, but it should be covered. And
especially if you need to lose weight in order to have a procedure done.
Yep.
That is also covered.
I agree. It should be. Yeah, no, and I've had that before. I've had to where the weight was already gained when the injury occurred, but in order to have a procedure that's going to help out with the workers' compensation injury, the insurance company had to cover a program for weight loss so that the patient, the applicant, could lose the weight in order to get better from the work injury.
So you got to go and lose that weight, guys. If you have gained weight because you've been off of your feet and you're in a program, if you don't comply with the program, that's going to hurt your workers' compensation claim because you have to follow that treatment plan through. And we've discussed that on other episodes, going to the doctor, following treatment plans. Is it the right thing to do? Is it going to hurt your case if you don't? You need to check out that video. We're going to put a link right up here. We're going to put it in the description below. Check out our other videos as well. But getting back to the topic here on the doctor treating you, if you're going to and coming from the doctor, automobile accident, slip and fall, something happens, it's covered under workers' compensation. If the doctor performs a procedure on you, it might be malpractice. If they mess it up, it could be malpractice. You could have a lawsuit against the doctor. Those are very hard lawsuits, and oftentimes you're not going to get anything from that. But you will have workers' compensation benefits if you're made worse. And a lot of times when you're negotiating your case with the adjuster, if you need a surgery and it's coming up, there's risk if that surgery is going to go well or not go well, and that can affect the amount of permanent disability that you have, and that can affect how much the adjuster is willing to pay on your claim. So, but for purposes of this discussion, if you're injured because the doctor negligently or commits malpractice, that is covered under workers' comp. Whether or not you can prove the doctor messed up, if you're worse off, it's covered.
It's covered, and it's might be two claims, right? Now you have a workers' compensation claim because of what happened, but you can also have, like Alex mentioned, a malpractice claim, and you can do those both. You can do them concurrently. So, however, the money issue, you can talk to your attorney about that. You can talk to us about that.
A lawyer for that.
Yeah, it'll be, you can't double dip, so there will be some reimbursement on either part depending on what happens, but you can have two claims and it might work out better for you because you might be able to get medical treatment for life on one and then get paid out on the other one. It's just things that, and strategies you want to discuss with your attorney. You definitely need one. Give us a call on the helpline. But I think that's it, Alex. I mean, we covered the broad strokes. Obviously, there's some very specific questions that our viewers might have, and they can always reach out to us. But overall, a good topic.
That concludes this episode of the Inland Empire Workers' Compensation Lawyer live stream podcast. If you're out there and you've been injured and then you were injured going to or coming from the doctor, you now know that you have potential rights. You need to call a lawyer for legal advice. Dial the injury helpline 844-984-8414.